Today is June 17, 2024. This is session number 15 of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication, an open-hearted practice group with Jim and Jori Manske. And I turn it to you.
I'm glad to be here. How are you, Jori?
I'm glad to be here too. I enjoyed the floor party when we got to chat a little bit, and I'm looking forward to our time together now.
Yeah, me too. This is a kind of a unique class. Periodically, as we go through the skills we've been working on, we pause and do some self-assessment. And I'll talk more about that as we after we do our self-connection exercise and so forth. But I'm really looking forward to sharing that process with you and helping you today to celebrate what you've been learning, whether even if this is your very first class, you're going to probably learn something about your nonviolent communication skills and consciousness. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. We practice here. This is a practice group. So Jori and I do the best we can to talk the least amount. We're getting progressively less stupid at being able to do that, but we're doing the best we can. And that's a quote from Marshall Rosenberg, by the way, that the point of NVC is not to be perfect, but to become progressively less stupid.
And then it's also the one doing the talking is learning.
Yeah, doing learning. That's why we really encourage the breakout rooms. And we also will do self-connection, which is a chance to practice nonviolent communication just with yourself. We'll do that in a new way today. I'll read what Marshall liked to call a remembering, which is something inspirational. And after the remembering today, we will move into small groups for those of you who would like to do that. That's probably the best part of the class. I read the feedback pretty much every week afterwards, and everybody says that the small groups is the best part. I don't take that personally. I take it as really an affirmation of our hope. And then we'll have this self-assessment process and another chance to go back and connect with friends in the small groups. And so that's the general plan for today. And so let's just start with that remembering. I need this so I can read. So this last Saturday was a memorial service for our departed friend, Gary Barron. And Gary was the former executive director of the Center for Nonviolent Communication when Jori and I first got involved in CNBC. And so we knew him for more than 20 years, and I miss him. And his memorial service was last Saturday. And someone at the memorial service reminded us of what I'm about to read to you, and I'll give you the link after I read it. But the invitation would be to just take in each of these 10 sentences and see how they land in you, to see if they resonate in you, see if they inspire anything that might be important for you to do as a next step. So let's just start by taking a couple of breaths, noticing that you are breathing. Just do a quick body scan. See if there's any needs that are calling for immediate attention. And maybe adjust your posture, or get a drink of water, or stand up or sit down, or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And connect to the needs that you're hoping to meet by being together here in our community on our call today. And my invitation is for you to just listen to these 10 sentences and take them in. You don't have to worry about trying to take notes. They'll be in the classroom afterwards, and I'll give you the link as soon as this part ends. So these are called 10 things you can do to contribute to internal, interpersonal, and organizational peace by Gary Barron. Number 1, spend some time each day quietly reflecting on how you would like to relate to yourself and others. Spend some time each day quietly reflecting on how you would like to relate to yourself and others. Number 2, remember that all human beings have the same needs. Remember that all human beings have the same needs. Number 3, check your intention to see if you are as interested in others getting their needs met as your own. Check your intention to see if you are as interested in others getting their needs met as your own. Number 4, when asking someone to do something, check first to see if you are making a request or a demand. When asking someone to do something, check first to see if you are making a request or a demand. Number 5, instead of saying what you don't want someone to do, say what you do want the person to do. Instead of saying what you don't want someone to do, say what you do want the person to do. Number 6, instead of saying what you want someone to be, say what action you'd like the person to take that you hope will help the person be that way. Instead of saying what you want someone to be, say what action you'd like the person to take that you hope will help the person be that way. Number 7, before agreeing or disagreeing with anyone's opinions, try to tune into what the person is feeling and needing. Before agreeing or disagreeing with anyone's opinions, try to tune in to what the person is feeling and needing. Number 8, instead of saying no, say what need of yours prevents you from saying yes. Instead of saying no, say what need of yours prevents you from saying yes. Number 9, if you're feeling upset, think about what need of yours is not being met and what you could do to meet it, instead of thinking about what's wrong with others or yourself. If you're feeling upset, think about what need of yours is not being met and what you could do to meet it, instead of thinking about what's wrong with others or yourself. And finally, number 10, instead of praising someone who did something you like, express your gratitude by telling the person what need of yours that action met. Instead of praising someone who did something you like, express your gratitude by telling that person what need of yours that action met. So take a moment and just let those in. I'll paste them into the chat, one chunk at a time. And I'll give you the link. They won't be numbered right because I'm doing it this way, but it should work anyway. And Marta, whenever you're ready, you can invite folks to go to small groups for about 15 minutes, 14 minutes plus a minute to finish up your conversation. And what do you do in the small groups? Well, the idea is that you connect. This is a chance to practice honesty and empathy. Honesty being the expressing part of nonviolent communication, and empathy being the listening part. So if there's 3 people in your group, which is typical, 2/3 of the time you'll be practicing empathy, and 1/3 of the time you'll be practicing honesty. So when you're in empathy, just open your heart, open your body to be present to the feelings and needs of the person who's expressing. You don't need to respond. Back in about 5 seconds or so. Except for Jori. She'll be back in very soon. All right. If you're here for the first time, thank you and you were courageous enough to participate in a small group. Thank you for trying that. Hope it met some needs for you. And for those of you who might have had a new person in your group, I appreciate you greeting them with warmth and acceptance. And just do want to acknowledge that especially for new folks, small groups might be new and intimidating, and large groups might be, because right now I'm going to invite folks to share in the large group. And if you're comfortable doing that, great. If you're not, also great. But if there's anybody who would like to share anything about what's going on so far in the group today, maybe you were particularly moved by something in the Gary's 10 suggestions, or something else that's going on that you'd like to be heard about, we'll spend a few minutes hanging out and listening to you. This is, again, our chance for most of us. There's 80 of us or so on the call, so about 79 of us will be practicing empathy at any given moment. Again, just attune yourself to the feelings and needs of whoever the speaker is. And content can take a second place. Content can be really important and fun to listen to, but it's really the feelings and needs that we're training ourselves to focus on here. So if you'd like to share something, just raise your electronic hand like Georg did. Go ahead, Georg.
Hi, Jim, and
Hi.
everyone. I miss Jori today.
She's here. She's here.
here.
She just went out to do a quick little errand.
Okay, great. So perhaps later. The second part is you're welcome to take it personal that I really enjoy those breakout rooms. I also enjoy what you present otherwise, and I know that facilitating is a delicate balance between teaching and sharing, at least from my experience, for me, and I appreciate that you create this space and facilitate it. So I want to thank you for that, and hope that my saying so may meet a need for your well-being.
Thank you, Georg. I really appreciate the feedback, and I love taking it in. It's fun to have you here and to hear your voice. Yes. And Colleen.
I particularly appreciated the one line from Barron's or Baran. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but the one saying, don't tell someone what you want them to be, but rather what action you would like them to change. And I was thinking about that. I mean, I knew that, but I was thinking that when you tell someone what you want them to be, in essence, you're blaming them for being themselves. And so, yeah, I really appreciated that reminder.
Sweet. Yes, I really appreciated that one too. And the specific quote is, for those of you who might have come in late, it is, instead of saying what you want someone to be, say what action you'd like the person to take that you hope will help the person to be that way. I'll put it in the chat again for you to savor if you'd like. And Asta?
Yeah, thank you. I like that one too. In our small group, we had an interesting reflection around one of these statements that said, check your intention to see if you're as interested in others getting their needs met as your own. And how for some people, say women, for instance, it's other people's needs and not my own. A lot of times. So a reminder is also the intention to turn towards what my needs are, and am I interested in getting those met as well? And I found that to be very valuable as a thought that came around. It brought memories of my mother and my grandmother, and also sometimes my own self. And so a reflection was, if I was to look at these 10 reminders and check with myself, what are my 10 reminders or 5 reminders, especially when I relate to people around me, that would be so beautiful to also just really like look within and find what those are. So that came up and I felt very grateful for that.
Amen, Asta. The way that I've often heard it from Jori and others is, my needs, but not at your expense. Your needs, but not at my expense. Yeah. Can we find a way that can hold the needs as precious, and make sure that we do our best to find a strategy that contributes to everyone getting their needs met. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And your point, you know, I come from a position of probably the most privilege and luck on the planet. I'm a white guy, a white male. I've got some money. I live in Hawaii. I'm married. I've had a college education. So it's easy for people that are like me to forget what it's like to have a different kind of a body, born in a different place with different culture and different programming. So I really appreciate your reminding us to open our hearts to the cultural experience that other people might have experienced. So thank you. How do you feel hearing that, Asta?
Yeah, something in me feels moved. There's some sadness also coming up. I'm honest. Just around some of the experiences, somehow sometimes getting lost, even in my own awareness. And I would just so like every experience to be seen and all kinds of bodies to be seen and really matter in the world. So thanks again.
Yeah.
And also gratitude for the person in my breakout room who brought that out. Because if it wasn't for that, I would just be taking these 10 principles and then paste it on my wall and not really go back and check with my own self. So very grateful because, yeah, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for figuring out how to make them your own. And I mean, Gary just synthesized. I mean, here's my guess of what was going on in Gary when he wrote these. He was talking from his own experience of how NVC was helping him, and these were his reminders to himself. And then somehow he was motivated. Maybe this would help other people.
Yeah.
And so I encourage all of us to write our own reminders. What little piece of NVC, and we might go a little bit more into detail on that when we get to one part of our program today. But what little part of NVC do we really want to focus on and live into more fully? And to write ourselves a little love note to remind us to do that, like these. Thanks, Asta.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Stephen.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so I mentioned in my small group that there was one of the 10 that I've always had a difficulty with understanding, which is the one about not praising but naming my needs that are met by someone else's actions. Oops, sorry, I lost you. There you are. Yeah, as I said in the group, I really like praise. I like praising someone, and actually even being praised is fairly rare and feels like a gift when it happens. So it feels very juicy to me. And this thing about naming my needs just doesn't have the same juice. So I'm wondering if you can help me at all to understand that.
Yeah, well, first, just to catch you, that it's really juicy to hear from somebody, attaboy or a good job, and
to give that.
And to give it that affirmation can be quite juicy and nurturing. Yeah.
Yes.
And what I would say, great. Be as affirmative as you want to be, and use it as an opportunity to connect. Because in my experience now of practicing NVC, your experience, I too, I love praise. I love attaboys.
Attaboy.
Yeah. And I come from a tradition of Little League and all the kind of sports things, and I had some good coaches. But what I notice is right behind the praise, in my experience, is fear. Am I going to let this person down? What's going to happen if I don't do it good enough from now on? So it kind of can feed a jackal about being good enough. But if someone lets me know the behavior that I did, which is, it's more specific than attaboy. They say specifically what I did that they liked, and then they link it to why it matters to them. What need of theirs did I contribute to? Well, then I don't have that fear seems to disappear. So I think that's the beauty of NVC style gratitude. So
yeah, and it's clear that it's about them and their experience as opposed to pointing a finger at someone else. We think of them.
Yeah, does that make sense, Stephen?
It does. Yeah, that's helpful. I will consider that.
Yeah,
Thank
you betcha. Yeah, play around with it. Inga, and then we'll finish with Nancy.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I wanted Jim to help me to understand this paragraph. Instead of saying what you want someone to be, say what action you would like the person to take that you hope will help the person be that way. So, as far as how I understand it, first of all, my experience is that I don't want to tell anybody how they should be, and I don't feel like I want to tell people what action they should take, to be that person that I hope will help that person be that way, because I respect the person, how they are, and this is who they are, and I wouldn't want to presume to tell them what action to take so they will be this way or that way, to please me or to do what I would like them to do. So I don't understand. I'm misunderstanding
I think you
something.
understand perfectly. I think it's a perfect understanding. And what I catch is that you live in a field of acceptance, that you really have that you've really worked on yourself to be open-hearted and to live in that openness to outcome, and that other people are free to be whoever they want to be. And
Right.
sometimes, like I'm thinking back to what it was like to be a parent. And I used to say to my kids stuff like, be nice.
Yes,
So I
I can relate to that with children. Yes.
Yeah, I want you to be
Definitely.
a nice person. And what I wish I would have done as a parent is say something like that was specific to that particular situation. And I would have liked to have practiced some NVC.
If we knew about it,
If we
then.
knew about it then, which we did. We did something called parent effectiveness training, which is like NVC without the needs. It was pretty similar, but I would say something like, gosh, when you hit your brother, I feel scared and I want to make sure everybody's safe in the house. So can you use your words instead
I
of
see.
your hands when you're upset?
Right.
Something like that.
Okay.
Does that make
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, definitely. And I can be mindful with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Lucky them.
yes. Right. Yes, not my kids, not lucky,
Yes.
but yes, with they're lucky. Yes, thank you. If I can remember.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah,
You'll get another
Thank you.
chance if you forget the one.
yes,
This is-
that's
Well,
great.
lots of
Thank you.
opportunity.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll finish with Nancy and then we'll do
Yeah.
our practice.
Thank you very much. I had a question about the one where it says, instead of saying no, say what needs of yours prevents the yes. I'm in the bucket of, I don't say no, but I'm saying yes when I want to say no.
Right.
So I have a curiosity if saying what needs are getting if I'll be more able to say what needs of mine are not being met, which will lead me towards it's easier to say, I would rather feel more comfortable being my truth and my,
Yeah.
I'm just saying yes too many times when I don't want to, because I do have needs that, aren't met if I say yes, but I'm not comfortable saying no. And so I'm just curious to try this week out of this approach and see if I'm able to get to
Beautiful. You could actually try it.
no by saying my needs, though.
Yeah, we could try it right now. Nancy, I'll send you my address in the chat. Would you send me a check for $10,000?
Right. Okay. So I have a need to be financially secure, and I'm not in a position to do $10,000 because of my need to be financially secure in my family. I guess.
Wow.
And
That's so easy for me to
and-
take in.
Yeah, and then notice, everybody sitting here, just notice the difference in receiving that, including you, as you imagine that. It's a totally different experience.
Right.
It's got honesty there and no victimhood.
As opposed to, oh, you guys are amazing teachers. Yes, I'll write you a $10,000 check.
Right. That would be so culty, and I would really regret even receiving the money myself. But yet it's so deep in us. And if we do say yes, when we mean no, we are actually sowing the seeds for violence. Because
Yes.
right behind
Mm.
the giving a gift that we can't afford to give is what we call it. If we give a gift that we can't afford to give, then we're going to set into motion a cycle that leads to disappointment, resentment, and violence, and then guilt, shame, and depression, and then more submission in the future. So around and round we'll go. And so when we learn to say no non-violently, we actually promote peace in every single relationship, including the one with ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm excited to try that this week. Thank you.
Wonderful. You're welcome, Nancy.
Yay, I'm excited to hear about it when you come back.
Okay, let's dive into class for today. You're going to need something to write on and write with, hopefully a big, nice big piece of blank paper or something like that that has some room on it. I'll share my screen with you.
Did you get this request? Maybe we
I
covered
think we
it.
did. I
Yeah.
think so. It's called the Connection Compass, Navigating Your Nonviolent Communication Skills. And that's a really clever title that I didn't come up with. That was actually ChatGPT's idea. I told ChatGPT what I was intending to do, and I wasn't happy with the titles that I was coming up with. So I thought I would just get some help. And I kind of like this Connection Compass, and I ran it by Marta, and she said she liked it too. I didn't tell her that it came from ChatGPT though, but I wanted to come clean with you all with where the title came from. And by the way, ChatGPT and things like it can be really helpful for helping to support your NVC practice. You can get empathy, some form of empathy. It's not really human empathy, but you can get some feedback about your feelings and needs. You can get some help in translating difficult messages. It's quite amazing what you can ask these bots for help with.
Yeah, and they're very open to feedback. So if you ask for some empathy and you get opinion or whatever, you just explain, no, what I really want is for you to really sense what's going on and reflect it back to me or whatever it is.
Yeah, so I encourage you to play with it, especially if you're like me, kind of an introvert, and it's hard maybe to find an empathy buddy or something like that. Empathy buddy is what I really recommend, a practice buddy. But anyway, we'll go on from here. So here's a little background about the Matrix. Jori and I were living in New Mexico with and NVC was booming. Marshall was coming to New Mexico often. He didn't move there quite yet. Actually, he wasn't he had moved there by 2007. So he had a presence in New Mexico. The CNVC office was moved to New Mexico. There were 4 certified trainers, lots and lots of practice groups, and we were getting more demand, so to speak, more requests for NVC than we could fulfill. So we wanted to have some sort of a system to train practice group leaders. And so we had the idea, we'll come up with an assessment matrix. And Jack, Jake, Jori, and Jim will become the judges, and we will determine when someone is ready to be a practice group leader. And so we met the first time. Within 15 minutes, we thought, this isn't going to work. This is not in alignment with NVC, our experience of NVC. We didn't want to judge anybody, but so we came up with self-assessment as a strategy. And so, and then this happened to be the time when the movie The Matrix was was out, and our matrix has nothing to do with the movie The Matrix, other than it shares the title. And we think that the matrix that we ended up with actually points to a quality of reality that can really support people in creating a wonderful life. So I kind of like that it was coincidental, but a matrix just means something within or from which something else originates, develops, or takes form. And so we started basically with a blank spreadsheet, sort of. We made a list of skills. We kept refining the list of skills until we got a reasonable number. And then we defined each skill, and then we had levels of development for each skill. And people say that they find it helpful. And we'll give you a link at the end of the class so that you can explore the entire matrix if you'd like. The other thing we need to share a little bit about before we get going too deep is the concept of strengths and edges. Usually when people are thinking about behaviors and capabilities, they think in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Well, I don't like that word weakness very much. Somebody in the NVC land, I don't even know who to give credit to, came up with, was it, okay, we'll give Joy credit, came up with the idea of edges rather than weaknesses. And so a strength is basically any skill that you have reliable access to. I'm pretty sure that every single one of you could probably tie your shoes with your eyes closed in a dark room while having a conversation with somebody. So that's a strength, the ability to tie your shoes. It wasn't always that case for you. There was a time in your life when you had no idea even what a shoe was or a shoelace. And then as you learned how to tie the shoe, you experienced your edges around learning to tie that shoe. You had the desire, maybe you're 4 years old or 3 or whatever, and you decided that you wanted to learn how to tie shoes. And so you wanted to increase your access, and that took practice. And so the way we turn an edge into a strength is through practice. Let me just pause there and see if there's any questions about what I've said so far. I don't think there would be. It's not very much.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Monica has her hand up, but it's not for calling on.
All right. So back to the next step is getting yourself set up to do the actual practice. So step 1 is to have a blank piece of paper, and you're going to have a column on the left-hand side of the paper, and you're going to write the numbers 1 through 11. Okay, that probably didn't take you very much time. You're probably done with that. Now comes step 2, which is to create a continuum across the top of the page that looks like this. The numbers 1 through 10 with the words unknowing, awakening, practicing, and integrating across the top.
Jim, could you please repeat that? I'm seeing the slide which says step 3.
Yeah, you're doing step 2 now. So across the left-hand side, you've got 1 through 11. Across the top of the page, you have 1 through 10 with the words unknowing, awakening, practicing, and integrating.
I'm still not quite getting this.
Okay, what's your question?
It's the part about the grid going across the top and how the 10, there are 10 somethings.
10, you just have the number 1 through 10. That's all you need to worry about.
Yeah, we haven't told you yet what'll go underneath.
Well, the words unknowing, awakening, practicing, and integrating go across the top. Unknowing goes on the left-hand side. Awakening and practicing go in the middle. Integrating goes on the right-hand side. And I'll explain what each of those means once you get that set up. Is that clear, Allison?
Is better. Do I think, how does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 through 10 go with these 3 descriptors like unknowing, awakening, practice?
Yeah, so the unknowing part, that's a good time to explain it. Unknowing basically means, let's say that I say that the skill is designing a quantum computer, whatever the heck that is. And so if I thought about the skill of designing a quantum computer, that would be a definite 1 for me. I have no idea how to design a quantum computer. So I would put the number 1 next to the skill of number 1 if it was to design a quantum computer. If I was a physics PhD, just beginning a practice of, I'm still, maybe I'm postdoctoral work, I'm learning all about particle physics and quantum computing and blah, blah, blah. I might be awakening to the skill of designing a quantum computer. I'm starting to learn the skill set. So that's awakening in me. I'm beginning to understand. So I might give myself a 3 or a 4 in terms of the skill of designing a quantum computer.
Yeah, now he knows what it is, and he's just waking up to what is next.
Yeah, it's like I know what I don't know. I'm very clear that I know what I don't know, and I'm trying to start to practice and develop skills, which is the 4th stage of learning any skill. Whether it's tying your shoes or learning how to design a quantum computer, you have to practice. You try things out. You practice, 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 as Marshall said. And so when you're in the practice phase, you make lots of mistakes. You're on your learning edge, as they say. And so you're in the 5, 6, 7, 8 land of rating yourself on a particular skill. So this might be someone who's already got a job at some nuclear or computer lab or whatever, but they're still learning. And then the leader of the project, the person whose idea this is in the first place, he's integrated the skill. It's totally within him or her, and they're guiding the rest of the team in how to design this. So you could also do the same thing with tying your shoes, which was our first example. When you were 4 years old or 3 years old, you had no idea what a shoe was. So you would have given, and you were able to do this grid, you'd give yourself a 1. And then after mom or dad or uncle or grandma or whoever started teaching you how to tie shoes because you were interested in it, you would start awakening to the skill. And you'd see, oh, wow, I noticed that people have shoes and that they're tying them, and I don't really know how to do it. I'd like to know. And so that might be a 3 or a 4. And as I begin to practice tying shoes, I'm probably talking to myself. If you're like me, I'm talking, okay, the one goes over the other string, and then I do this and I tie that and I put it there and I pull this and I make a loop, and so I'm practicing.
Yeah, and you start out at 5, you're practicing, but it didn't quite work this time. Wait a second, I'll try again. And as you keep practicing and you get from 5 through 6 to 7, now I'm getting better at it.
And people are putting some suggestions in the chat of what it might look like and how it might work. And so once you know how to tie your shoes, I'm pretty sure everybody in this group is a 10 on tying your shoes. Although I wonder about the next generation, people, they're now shoes. My last few pair of shoes, you can't tie them. They got fake laces on them. Is that clear now, Allison?
Oh, that's deliciously clear. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, so
Thanks for asking.
Anybody else have any questions before we start going? Keep going. Cool.
Jim.
Yes.
There's a question in the chat. If you can put a little more step 1 and step 2 into the screen. Perhaps they want to make a screenshot or something.
Sure. I got it. Okay, so let's go back. Here's step 1.
We still see step 3.
Really?
Really?
Huh.
Oh, that's strange. Okay, stop sharing for a moment.
I'm really puzzled.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Step 3.
Huh. I wonder why.
It says step 3, read each skill.
Okay.
Far.
Let's see here. I'm gonna go here.
We never saw step 2 either.
Okay, here we go. So now let's see. Now do you see strengths and edges?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, there's no wonder you were confused. You weren't seeing the right page. Here's step 1.
We already did that. We made
And
them.
here's step 2.
There we go.
Ah,
Oh,
great.
anybody who could do this without without this help, you're integrated at the skill of visualization.
Yeah, looks the
Thank
same
you.
to me. We were, that something else happened there.
Okay.
Jim, I
Yep.
have a quick question. How did you come with the number 11? I thought there were like 28 skills.
We're only doing the first 10 today,
Okay,
and number 11 will be revealed.
awesome.
Yeah, the reason that we're going 1 through 10 is because we started these classes in March, and we've made it through the first 10 skills about a little over 1/3 of the way through the whole matrix. So we're just going to assess what we've been practicing since March. Step 3. Everybody sees step 3 now, yes? Okay. So consider a specific situation when your NVC skills have recently been stretched, but not broken. Write down this observation. Use descriptive language free of moral judgment. So the reason that we suggest doing a specific situation, if you try to do this generally, it gets kind of confusing. You can do it generally, but it never seems to work for people. They always get a little bit confused. So if you think of one specific time when you noticed your aim was to, it might have even been in the last little breakout room, or it might have been last week, or it might have been, but something relatively recent. So it's a very fresh memory, and describe exactly what you saw and heard, and be as specific as you can.
Jim, can you explain through example, please?
Sure. Let's see here. The idea would be to find a time when my NVC skills were stretched but not broken. So I'm just going to close my eyes and think about it for a second. And so I'm in a store, and I've picked an item out at the store, and I'm checking out at the store, and the price that rings up on the register is about $3 more than the price that I was expecting. So that's my stretch. That was a moment of stretch. I didn't quite know how to use my NVC skills. They weren't totally broken. Does that help? Another possible, here's another
Yeah,
possible.
please.
Let's
Mhm.
say you see, maybe you can see that Kira has arrived, our daughter's dog. So I'm going to make something up that didn't really happen, but it could be an example. Let's say that our daughter just disappeared without letting us know that she was leaving the dog with us. And then we heard the dog barking, and then we wanted to talk to our daughter about it later. And we were, I'll talk about me. I was feeling upset about it, and I wanted to connect about what happened. Does that help?
Yeah, so let me understand. So any situation where I find myself surprised or little upset, is it?
Yeah, you want to probably pick something that where you're a little bit upset, where where it involves another person, and there's an opportunity to talk about it.
This makes really big sense. Thank you.
You're
Good.
welcome.
Thanks for asking.
Thanks for your question. You probably asked on behalf of many of us. Okay. So, anybody need more time to speak up if you do? or if you need help coming up with an observation.
Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, when would they be broken?
When when you symptoms of when your NVC skills are broken is what you're asking for. Violence, either verbal or physical, screaming and or running away from a conflict, or just, you know, those of you who have been here for a while know about jackal versus giraffe. All you can think of is jackal. So all you're doing is judging the other person, making them wrong,
Okay.
criticizing them. And you can't think of any
Oh.
option. That would be one
All
of my.
right. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for your question.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to hopefully share the right screen again. And should say now at the top, we will start our exploration, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Anyone see something different? Yeah, see a thumbs up.
Okay, good.
Thank
We'll
you.
start our exploration by inviting you to connect to your overall experience as a nonviolent communication practitioner, whatever that means to you. If this is your very first NVC practice group and you have no idea what NVC is, just instead of putting the word nonviolent communication practitioner, use the word communicator. Think of your overall experience as a communicator. And just kind of be with yourself as a practitioner of human connection. Maybe savor all that you have learned since you just popped out of mom and you started learning to communicate, to ask for what you want, to take what you get. Think of your overall experience as a communicator. And then take a moment now just to connect with, why are you still here? There's still 80 people on the call. What needs are you hoping to meet by trying this exercise? I'll make some guesses. It's about learning, growth, self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-empathy. Something else for you? And savor these needs. Savoring just means to enjoy the pleasure of the energy of those beautiful needs. Then bring to mind the specific observation that you chose, and bring it to mind as vividly as possible in whatever way you remember something. Some people are quite visual in their memories. Some people talk to themselves about their memories. Some people have a felt sense in your body about a memory. Some people have all three. However you do it, just bring to mind as vividly as you can the memory of the moment when your NVC skills were tested. And then now I'm going to go through the 10 skills. And you don't have to worry about trying to write down the skill or anything like that unless you want to. There'll probably be enough time. But the idea is to hear the skill, hear the definition of the skill, and then go to your body, go to your somatic body-based experience rather than up into your head and analyzing yourself. Just notice whether your body says, I have no idea what he's talking about. That would be at the one end of the scale. Or the other end of the scale was, oh yeah, I was fully present in that moment, or whatever the skill is, or somewhere in between. And you can choose either one number or a range of numbers that describes your experience. So that's the first skill, presence. Being attentive to what's happening right now, not lost in thinking, emotional reactions, etc. So consider the word, the concept, the definition, and then go to the body as you remember the moment. And then just give yourself a self-assessment. You don't have to share this with anybody. This is private. This is just for you. And again, it could be a single number like 3 or 10, or it could be a range, 7 to 9, whatever it is for you. No right answer. Second skill, observing, noticing and possibly describing our sensory and mental experiences, and distinguishing these experiences from the interpretations we ascribe to them. Observing. Take it in, check your body, and then self-assess. Next skill, number 3, feelings awareness. Ability to identify and experience our physical sensations and emotions. Feelings awareness. Next skill, number 4, self-acceptance. Accepting oneself with unconditional caring. Self-acceptance. Next skill, taking ownership of one's feelings, living from the knowledge that I alone cause my emotions. My emotions are not caused by others. Taking ownership of one's feelings. Next skill, needs consciousness. Awareness of and the willingness to honor needs, the essential, universal, elemental qualities of life, like sustenance, love, and meaning. Needs consciousness. Next skill, reconnecting to self and recovering from reactivity. You could also call it self-empathy if you wanted to. Reactivity is internal resistance to what is. Recovery is letting go of that resistance. Reconnecting to self is being with one's own experience with presence and compassion. Reconnecting to self and recovering from reactivity. Do your best to keep reconnecting as vividly as you can to the observation. Put yourself back into the memory from first person and remember what it's like to be in that experience as you consider the next skill. Request consciousness and making requests. The willingness to ask for what one wants with openness to any response, not attached to any particular outcome. Request consciousness and making requests. Excuse me. Next skill, mourning. Transforming the suffering of loss, letting go of resistance to what is, and being willing to allow our experience to unfold. Mourning. Empathy. Being present with another's experience with unconditional acceptance of the person. Empathy. And then number 11, anything else? What other skills do you celebrate that support you in living in NVC consciousness? Some examples that I've heard other people say: sense of humor, patience, gratitude. What other skills do you celebrate in you that support you in living NVC consciousness? You can just write them down, self-assess. Okay. So now Marta will go to small groups for 20 minutes. So what do you do in the small group? Well, this is an opportunity to debrief, to talk about what your experience was during the self-assessment. So here's some suggestions of what you might talk about. What you could just describe what you did, what your own internal process was. You might describe what it is about this process that you liked, if anything. You might describe to your pod mates what you learned from the practice, or something else. Again, there'll be about 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes for each person. Lynette, we're gonna wait for everybody. Everybody is back.
That was quick.
Yeah, great. So yeah,
Everybody's here now.
Yeah,
super,
Greg.
super. So Lynette, you have your hand up. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I just have a question about if you do you have a graphic of this that you could share that has like kind of the, the setup of how you had to set it up, where we could do it again and again at different times, because as time progresses, I would like to do it again.
Well, yep, I have a book.
And in that book,
Called Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. It's in there, but also in the classroom, you'll get this slideshow, and it'll be in the slideshow, the whole thing. So you can do it over and over and over and over again. And
you.
we'll
That's
probably
great.
do this again in about 3 months or so, and we'll do the next 10 skills. We'll add some skills. So we'll keep going with this.
yeah, and it's kind of fun to do it now and then in 3 months do it again and see how things have transitioned in your life.
Yeah. So let's hear from a few people about what you liked, or what you learned, or what you didn't like, or what your needs are. Anybody want to share? Just raise your hand. Yeah, Jeff.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're-
thanks.
oh.
Thanks for the space. I really enjoyed being able to give myself a range instead of a set number, because even in my one little experience that I was assessing, I traveled in that time. You know, I didn't stay stagnant.
Right.
I was really grateful to have skill 11 and be able to fill in what I'm doing well that's, you know, leading to a happier life. And so that was really good to be able to affirm myself in that way. And I noticed with number 6, needs consciousness, that just an observation, and if you'd like to respond to it, that'd be great. But just I'm really good at seeing the unmet needs, and I'm not very strong in seeing the met needs. So that's an area of growth for me.
That's beautiful that you noticed that, Jeff.
Yeah, recognition is simultaneous with liberation.
Yeah, and I think it's a developmental sequence that I learned this from Robert Gonzalez, who was my assessor and an important trainer in my early days. He's gone now, sadly, but he talked about how we naturally move from a consciousness of deficiency of needs to a consciousness of the beauty of needs. And so as we deepen our needs consciousness, we'll naturally move from deficiency to beauty. And again, like you just pointed out, it's a dynamic process from moment to moment. You're welcome.
I want to share one more thing, and I know we're at the end of our time, but someone said something in our group that I thought was really profound and funny. They said, if you think that you've mastered some area of nonviolent communication, try giving your parents a call and see how well you do with it. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Or your ex.
Or your boss, or your kid, or yeah. Thank you. And Vanessa?
Is it okay to delete this?
Yeah, I added an extra element to the exercise. So I considered a situation, like you said, where my NVC was stretched but not broken. And then I also compared it to a situation where my NVC was broken, to see what happened to my skills when I'm triggered. And it was really helpful to see where my big learning edges are. So thank you for this.
Very cool. I love it when people invent new practices. Thank you. And Dean?
Hi. One thing that struck me was I really enjoyed the feedback of this process. It really, met needs for learning and to be able to make changes with the specificity of, what I learned, in my example.
Nice.
I also discovered that the example I used was not really very heavy or complicated, but it turned out that it was once I was starting to break it down into these 10 components. Where was I at with these 10 components? And there was these 3 phases where I made a mistake and I had an evaluation of myself in that phase. And then the awareness phase of what I had done and the impact that it had caused, and then an attempt at repair. And so during that whole flow, there was like different evaluations of these different aspects. And
Nice.
so I learned about, in particular, that, when you make a mistake or you forget about, your presence or other people's needs, that you can do something about it. You can just pick it up and make a change. And in this case was I made a repair. And so, yeah, there was a lot of learning that went on about what can happen, just during this communication.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so gratified hearing how you how you utilize the tool to deepen your own experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dean.
Thank you.
And I loved how you said process. I love the subtle Canadian accent.
Thank you all.
And Allison?
Oh, well, this was transformative for me. My collaborator in our breakout room with just the two of us. And all these years, observations, feelings, needs, and I'm always just completely free